Nik Carter here on KLOS with the man, the legend, purveyor of quality spirits and even more quality rock and roll, the great Sammy Hagar. Good to see you, my brother.
Well, thank you. Happy to be here, Nick. I got to tell you, there's a lot going on in my life right now. I really thought that this year I was going to take it easy after last year doing the Best of All Worlds tour, but no, I took the residency. No, I took
Right.
Stagecoach. No, I took the show in Birmingham, England with Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath. It's like, what is wrong with me?
You need to slow down. That's never going to happen. I can tell.
I used to think I had brakes on my car, but I realized they're only for drugs and alcohol. For anything else, no, I just have a gas pedal.
Well, this brand new project right over my shoulder, Encore, Thank You, Good Night. I heard about the project. Now, the second I heard it, the first few notes, you know exactly what it is. So is that you or is that Mr. Satriani doing your best EVH impression?
Oh, that's Joe Satriani. And let me tell you something. I sat on this song for 2 years. It was a year after Eddie passed. I had a dream, and he came to me in the dream, and we were kind of writing this song. And I was singing this in the dream. I was singing this melody to. He was playing some chords and stuff, and I was singing da 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 da, not the lyrics. Da 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 da. And then all of a sudden I went, wait a minute, Eddie's passed. He's dead. And boom. I don't know if you've ever dreamt about people that have passed, but the
Yeah.
second you think, oh no, they've passed, that dream is over. You wake up. So the good news is I woke up right in the middle of singing. And I
Wow.
remember what I was singing. So I sang it into my iPhone. My wife's going, what are you doing? 4 o'clock in the morning. I said, honey, this is important. You want to hear about my dream or not? No, I don't want to hear about your dream. So, and that's all I had. And then I would play it around the house. And I was trying to figure out this riff that Eddie was playing in the thing, because it's a Eddie kind, in my dream, it was an Eddie kind of riff, not something I would think of. So anyway, I played it for Joe and told him the story a few months ago. And he goes, wow. I said, what do you think Eddie would do? Why don't you try to finish this and just think like Eddie? You just played, 34 cities with 14 Van Halen songs. You studied Eddie really good. He's playing all them songs. And he goes, no, I would love to have a crack at this. He wrote all the rest of that music, the intro, which we call encore, because it's like, Eddie always played a long intro on
Right.
songs. Joe was the guy to do it. I mean, I could have called Neil Schon, I could have called Steve Lukather, I could have called a million guys and said, hey, I want to write this song with you. And everybody likes to write songs, So you offer somebody to write a song with you, they're going to, hell yeah, But Joe was the guy. And then I got Mikey on the back. We worked on all them background vocals. And I'm going, this is really starting to sound like a Van Halen track, and intentional. I'm not trying to copy anybody. I'm not trying to rip anybody up. This is a true story. I had this dream and a song came out of it. And so I said, well, what am I going to sing about? I'm going to tell you exactly what happened, right there in front of me,
Yeah.
like he had never been gone. Over in the corner, we wrote this song, coming out of a dream. I held on to that melody, and another dream becomes reality. And that's exactly what happened. So it kind of wrote itself. And I thought it just really leans itself towards a tribute from Joe Satriani and myself to
Yeah,
Eddie.
I wanted to
Yeah,
ask you
it's a
about that
tribute.
because Edward has been gone about 5 years now. And I remember when he passed, the first thing I thought was, I wonder where Sammy's head is. And interviews are great. You've always got a lot to say. But for a cat like you, my sense is the truest expression of feeling is always musical. So were you just not ready to address it yet? Had it just not moved you in a way that you were ready to sort of communicate musically yet? Or
Well, number one, Nick, I didn't have the dream yet. The dream came about a
right.
year later. But as far as doing something about Eddie's passing, I was there waiting for the phone to ring,
Mm.
and it never rang. So nobody ever decided they was going to do the thing for Eddie, which I still think is just blasphemy. I just don't. It just shows the dysfunction of the Van Halen camp. It always was when
Yeah.
I joined it.
Yeah.
Hey, we were dysfunctional too, So, but when I did have the dream, then I was. It wasn't enough of a song. I didn't think about Joe Satriani at that time, because that was before we did the tour. Once we did the tour, I started thinking about this song again, and I'd play it backstage once in a while. I'd play it to Joe and I'd sing it, And he's going, that's really cool. It's really cool. But I didn't have lyrics. I wasn't singing those lyrics. I was singing the melody. And I was saying, I want to thank you. That's all I had. I want to thank you. And I thought, there's been a million songs about thank you. But that's what I wanted to do is thank Eddie. I wanted to thank him for the fortune, for the fame, for the good times. And let him know that since he's been gone, it ain't the same. And
Yeah.
it's not. I mean, we can sell out every arena and every amphitheater in the country like we did on the Best of All Worlds tour last year. But without Eddie, it was a little different.
Yeah.
It was a lot different, and it was wonderful. Joe really came to the party. Mikey's always been at the party. Mikey is the party. Kenny and Ray, the keyboard player. We did all the live vocals, all the live keyboards. It was a blast. It was wonderful. But I'll never reach that pinnacle again, and I don't even have any fantasies about, oh man, I'm going to be as big as I was in Van Halen someday. No, you're not. Nobody is. By the way.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because I wondered. I mean, from being a fan from a kid, I knew and I could see that virtually anyone not named Van Halen was going to have a complicated relationship with Eddie. Were you able to square whatever vitriol, real or perceived, there was? I mean, near the end, were you comfortable with where you two were in each other's lives and your relationship? I mean, like when somebody passes, you reevaluate everything, and a lot of times, you're like, oh, I didn't have time to say this, I didn't have time to do this. How were you when he passed?
Well, the passing was brutal. It was devastating. I couldn't even talk for hours. I couldn't even tell my wife. I couldn't even spit it out. That Eddie had died. It just kind of crushes me today. But I was okay with us because we were buddies, man. We were texting. We were leaving each other messages, talking. We talked on the phone a few times. And he was sick. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm talking about just the last few months. It wasn't like I heard he was really ill, and I reached out. And I said, Al, I said, Ed, I reached out to your brother. I reached out to Azoff Management. I reached out to, your right-hand man. And he goes, well, why the fuck didn't you call me? Why are you calling those guys? And I thought, man, Eddie has grown up.
Yeah.
Because that wasn't the old Eddie. The old Eddie would be, oh, I know. He would slip around it. But when he said that, I thought, man, this is beautiful. I said, God, So anyway, we had a great relationship. We talked about getting together. He said, give me a year. I got to beat this. He said, I've been fighting this for a long time, and for many years, And he said, and I got to beat it, and we'll get together and let's make some noise. We made some great music together. And he said, next year, I plan on getting us all together and making some noise. I said, you got a deal. And he said, don't talk to anybody about this. I don't want any pressure.
Right.
People saying, well, you're going to go out. And, he said, I'm sick, And boy, I got to tell you, then he got really sick and I didn't hear from him. I have a video on my iPhone of me sending him a video message saying, Ed, I've been calling you. I've been texting you. I'm getting no response. You're making me nervous. Are you okay? And I got the date. It's on there. I didn't erase that. I sent it. I never got a response. He died a couple of days later.
Oh.
So so I feel okay. You see what I'm saying?
No, I got you.
The only thing I wish we could have done, we got together and played some wrote some songs and played some music. And that's why this song here is really important to me, because I kind of feel like it was inspired by A Dream with Eddie, and
Right.
It's kind of like the closest thing I can get, and getting Satriani on board to think like that. See, Joe would have played something different if I'd have said, let's you and I for Chickenfoot. If there would have become a Chickenfoot song, it would have been different. But I said, no, Joe, make this a Van Halen song, And Joe's enough of a scholar to where he did it. He brought it home like a mother. Yeah.
Tell me this, Sammy, before I lose you. What was it like to write with Edward? I mean, the things you did. I mean, I'm not to pit, Van Halen versus Van Hagar, but the things that you did in the band were so much more sophisticated melodically and sonically than they had done before. And I know this because I remember talking to Michael McDonald, and we were talking about I'll Wait, and I said, "Yeah, man, the keyboard is amazing," and he said, "Oh no, that's all Eddie." Eddie came to me
Yeah.
with that already done. So, from as early as 1984, that was the direction he wanted to go in. And he clearly wanted to go in a different, more melodic, sort of, I don't want to say more polished, but just more melodic, sonically direction. So, what was it like to write with him, and what was your understanding when you joined the band that he wanted the band to be with you?
Well, first of all, it was a joy writing with Eddie Van Halen. Every time he played me a song idea, it was so inspiring. It was instant goosebumps, instant lyrics come to mind. When he played me "When It's Love," I remember after this, we got together for the second record for "Oh You Ain't Doing," and he sits down and he plays. No, I was in the car with him and Al, and he puts a cassette in with him just going ba da 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 da, and I just immediately start singing. How do I know when it's love on the chorus? I got da 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 da. Just like that. Those words just came out when I heard 5150. I immediately started singing, the chorus on that. Eddie's music was so inspiring. So that's as a writer. But let me tell you, I didn't do anything to change Eddie Van Halen. Eddie heard me sing and went, "Wow, you can sing like that? No, what if I played this?" And he was always sitting at a keyboard because guess what? Eddie really did almost everything you can do on a guitar before I joined the band. So he was as good a keyboard player, I'm telling you, Michael McDonald told you the same thing, as he was a guitar player. Maybe not as innovative, but almost. So he was always playing keyboards, and I guess the previous singer didn't like the keyboard songs. He went, "Oh, we're a guitar band." Oh,
Yeah.
great. I agree.
Yeah.
If I'd have been in hearing that early stuff Eddie was playing, I'd say, "Man, play that again." Ain't talking about level. Wait a minute. Unchanged. I would have been saying, "No, let's play this shit." But Eddie was kind of over that. He and anything he did on guitar was like 5150. When I heard that, I'm going, "That's a piece. That's a musical piece. That's Beethoven up in this mother." So what I think I brought out in Eddie and allowed him was to expand his musical horizons, which he was probably could have kept going. I mean, I guarantee you, last time I talked to him, I asked him what he was doing, and he when he was sick, he said, "Oh, I've been playing a lot of cello." I'm going, okay.
Wow.
Like, what's next for this cat? He was a great and extremely inspired, talented musician, and on every level. So I really do believe that people say, "Oh man, Sammy joined a band and they did all these keyboard things and started writing these love songs, pop songs." No, that's what Eddie was writing. I
Yeah.
just wrote the lyrics and the melody to it. He asked me, "Can you sing this?" Fuck yeah, I can sing that. It was very sophisticated. Eddie was saying, "No, I don't want to just go, ba da 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 da." But been there, done that,
Yeah.
and I get it, and I was wanting to sing sophisticated shit, I'd say,
Yeah.
man. So anyway, when I heard Dreams, the last song on 5150, when I heard that keyboard thing he had done, and I said, "Wow, where'd that come from?" And he's because we were already kind of done with the record. Mick Jones wanted us to do one more song. He was producing. We need one more song. So long story short, I said, "Wow, where'd that come from?" And he goes, "Oh man, I've had that for a couple of years." And he said, "Nobody wanted to do it." I'm going, "Dreams?
Wow.
That's Dreams." I
Wow.
mean, now look at that song. That's right now. I don't know if he had that before or not, but
That's
uh,
your Sergeant Pepper right there. And it's funny, Mick
yeah.
Jones Mick Jones told me that the first time I guess you were driving him up to Eddie's house for the sessions that were going to become 5150. You stopped in the driveway and turned to him and said, "Mick, you about to see some shit."
Well, that sounds like me, all right.
All right, brother. Before I let you go, you have the residency coming up in Vegas. You got Mikey with you. I mean, man, you and Michael, you guys are like Lucy and Ethel. I swear.
We're carrying the flag. I'm telling you right now, Nick, we're carrying the flag. Nobody else can do it. Alex can't play. He's half crippled. Dave retires every 5 fucking minutes, and he can't sing my song. So that
Yeah.
I don't care what anyone says. That ain't just Van Halen when you're going out and just playing the early stuff. And for me, just to play Van Hagar, that isn't Van Halen either. So we play. Ain't talk about love. We even play Jump sometimes. We play Panama, one of my favorite Van Halen
Yeah.
songs. We're thinking about. But we play some of the old stuff because it's badass shit. I
Yeah.
mean, I love playing. So Mike and I have a responsibility. to the fans. You know, there's hundreds of tens of millions of fans out there, and if we can bring it to them, we're going to do it for as long as we can do it. So,
So who's
and
going to be in the
Kenny
band with
Aronoff and
you?
Joe,
Who's going to
yeah,
be in the band with you for the residency, and how are you even going to like craft a set list between your solo stuff and Van Halen and the Circle? I mean, you might even go back to Montrose for crying out loud.
yeah, we will we'll play a little bit of everything. The thing is that we're gonna um, do what we did on the Best of All Worlds tour. That was a little longer show. We can't play 2 hours and 20 minutes, but we for the residency, these hotels, they don't like you play that long. We'll squeeze as much as possible. But we played 14 Van Halen songs and 10 of mine, including one Chickenfoot and one Van Halen. I
Right.
mean, one Montrose. So is what we'll do is we're gonna mix up. Every night we'll play one or two different songs in the set.
Okay.
But everyone's saying, "Oh man, we want to hear you change it up every night." I'm going, well, that's not fair to the guy that only gets to see one show.
Yeah.
And he goes, I want to hear right now. I want to hear I Can't Drive 55. I want to hear, When It's Love. And I want to hear, Top of the World. And they say, well, we played those last night. Yeah, but I wasn't here.
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword. But we will flip-flop 3 or 4 songs every night and for the 9 shows. And we're going to get as much in there as possible. Probably 12 Van Halen songs and 8 to 10 of mine.
Well, I got to tell you, it's a beautiful tribute. Encore, thank you, good night. Definitely stream it, pick it up, download it if that's still a thing. You got any more in the chamber? Is this going to be a part of a larger piece, or are you just going to go with this for now?
I don't see any reason to make a whole record in my life right now at this time. I've made too many damn records as it is. It's hard. I can't play a show without having somebody complain.
Yeah.
You didn't play my favorite song. I was like, yeah, well, which one's that? But I can see Joe and I writing a couple more songs. Not like this. This is a one-off thing. This is just, it's so special. It came from a dream. Unless I have another dream, this is it like this. But I have a couple songs in the tank. I really do, that I love, and I just like recording every now and then. But this song is going to be in the set in the residency, and it's going to blow everybody's mind where it is. I think I ain't saying, but I'm telling you, Nick, you're going to get your ass down to there and make sure you're there from when the lights go down.
All right, Sammy, it's always a blessing to talk to you, my brother. Thank you for joining us on KLOS.